Tips for first-year teachers. Some of the things that is going to be discussed is setting up your classroom as a first-year teacher, some tips and tricks for the first day of school, some expectations that you can put in place for different people, some relationship building ideas for different people that you're going to encounter, and some ideas for teacher self-care. Setting up your classroom. I believe we are all very familiar with the Pinterest classroom, meaning the rainbows, the extra artwork, the things hanging down from the ceiling, the bows, the ribbons, the fun, different things that are on the table, the tablecloths, the things hanging from windows, picture frames, artwork, cool and different seating, different arrangements of furniture, such as a picnic table. There are many different pictures that are floating around Pinterest that we probably have all saved to our Pinterest board at some point in time. I know I fell guilty to that bandwagon. All of the colors, all of the rainbows, even the pillows, they seem so inviting and so fun. I hate to be that person, but I recommend to stop looking on Pinterest. When you are setting up your classroom, you want to be intentional, meaning decorations should be meaningful and intentional. What you have on the walls should serve a purpose. They should not just be pretty things that you found on Pinterest and you decided to put on your wall. We like to call that fluff. There should be no fluff, meaning there should not be things on your wall that don't serve a purpose. These things on your walls and things hanging from your ceiling can be distracting and overstimulating to students. This can cause emotional outbursts. This can cause students to misbehave. This can cause students to seem like they're not listening to you. However, they're distracted by things that you put out. The placement of larger furniture, such as shelves and bookshelves and tables, should serve a purpose. That could be for safety, it could be for organization. Another thing to remember when setting up your classroom is safety. You need to minimize clutter, not have large open spaces, and do a safety sweep, meaning that you should check often things around your classroom. Make sure that there's no things that the students can have, touch, pull, knock over that can cause harm. Another thing to consider is organization. Not only for yourself, but for students. You and the students should be able to find everything quickly and easily. Organization for the student also allows for student independence and for them to not rely on you as heavily. So being intentional, as beautiful as these images are, with all of the color and the decoration and the pom-poms and the things hanging from the ceilings and the balloons and all of the flowers, they all look so beautiful. But I highly, highly, highly recommend to not continue using Pinterest. You can absolutely use Pinterest to get some ideas. However, these classrooms are not realistic. These classrooms have things that can cause distraction. So the things hanging from the ceiling are going to cause students to stop to stare at them. It could even cause students to end up standing on tables or shelves to try and get to them. For a kindergarten or preschool student, this might look like a toy to them, and they might be trying to go and get it. They may have something similar at home that they are allowed to play with. However, they don't know in your classroom that they don't. You can absolutely set up that expectation. However, all of those colors and things hanging from the ceiling can be a distraction. It can also cause students to become overstimulated. Having so many different things and colors to look at can cause a student distress and to become dysregulated. Having fun things on the table besides the supplies can absolutely be a distraction as well. Students can end up playing with them, breaking them, poking and touching one another with them, causing them to not have their focus on the task at hand. More things hanging from the ceiling can absolutely be a distraction. The bows on these bins, as beautiful as they are, they serve no purpose other than they're pretty. Some students might wander and go play with them. Some students, while you're talking about science and the weather, might raise their hand and ask, why is that yellow bow there instead of the pink bow? And of course, you can talk about rainbows and talk about rainbow order. However, students are going to become distracted by things that don't serve a purpose. So more things hanging from the ceiling. Students again might end up looking at this instead of paying attention during the lesson. The leaves in those buckets or shelves on that wall, while students are in that reading center, they may end up wanting to go and play and touch the stuff on the wall rather than doing what is intended during that center time. The things hanging from the window. If those windows are open and those things are moving, that can cause a student to become distracted. That is also another thing that students sitting at that table can go wander and look at, even with just their eyes and not moving their entire body. The silhouettes of the people on the shelf and the wall are a distraction. Students might wonder, why is there a little boy there? Why is there no face? You can absolutely pull that into a science lesson and talk about shadows. However, some students are still going to be distracted by the extra artwork and all of the extra color that are within these classrooms. The extra striping on the shelf. Some students become overstimulated by too many patterns, too many colors, too many textures, too many things to look at. While that absolutely looks beautiful and helps make this classroom look very pretty, too much of it can absolutely be a distraction. For this classroom, the pillows, that can cause some students to want to go lay on them, to go play on them, to have a pillow fight, as they may serve a purpose for the reading area, and you can set up an expectation for that. Too much can cause a distraction. Maybe cut it back to, instead of 10 pillows, maybe just 2 pillows, or only take them out during designated times. All of these rectangles and colors on this wall are absolutely beautiful. However, for some students, that might be overwhelming, overstimulating, and a major distraction for them. These butterflies, again, are very pretty. Depending on how this teacher used them for the bulletin board, it could be meaningful or it may not be. It could just be decoration, or the teacher may be using it in a meaningful way. Again, more things hanging from the wall and for the ceiling can cause for more distraction. That does not mean that you cannot have pretty, nice things on your walls. It just means what you do have should be meaningful and intentional. For example, this teacher on the left has colors on their wall. They are colorful, they are pretty, they are nice. They have images of different things. This teacher uses them daily in their kindergarten classroom to remind her students the colors. They can use it as a reference later on once they do know their colors. The students can use it as a reference on how to write the color name. They also use it as some of the sight words that are within. This teacher has things on the wall that are meaningful and intentional. They're meaningful because students can use them in multiple different ways, and they're intentional because the teacher uses it as well as the students. For the growth mindset, this teacher uses this tool every single day to remind her students about the different types of mindset. They talk about fixed and growth. They reference it in a time of need. If a student is saying that I can't do this, they'll reference it and say, I can't do it yet. This is meaningful and intentional because it is teaching the students about fixed versus growth mindset. And it is also something that is used daily. The students reference it when they need help getting from fixed to growth. They also reference it from using sight words because there are plenty of sight words in here. This is meaningful and intentional because the students use it, the teachers use it, and it is something that is used across the board and in multiple different ways. On the left, kindness is the new cool. This is actually one of the teacher in my building's catchphrase. They use this often. They say it every single day. They remind their students about what kindness is. And this is another example of meaningful and intentional because the teacher uses it every day. The students even reference it when the other students are not being so kind. On the right are a bunch of shapes. They are colorful, they are nice, they are pretty. You can absolutely have pretty, nice, colorful things. They just should be meaningful and intentional. Another big thing to consider is safety. The things in your classroom should serve a purpose, even down to your furniture. As beautiful as this little podium box is, this teacher might be using this as a way to get students to believe in themselves, to talk loudly, to present their voice. However, leaving it on the floor is a major safety concern. If a student is not paying attention, maybe a student that's not from this classroom walks into this classroom and they trip and fall, that's a major safety concern. This can still be used in classrooms. It would just have to be movable and only take it out when you need it. Having furniture like this is a safety concern because students can absolutely get hurt. Even staff members too. You have to think about yourself as well. On the right, there are a few things going on here. In the back with that first arrow, students are over in that area, yet there are multiple teachers and these students seem to be a little unattended. The furniture is not fully blocking off that area and there's a big open space. So there's not really definition to these areas. This shelf has a lot of stuff stacked on it and there's a student sitting right there. What if there's students on the other side of that shelf? If these items fell and hurt that student, that would be a major issue. Students bump and knock into shelves all the time and things fall very easily. Ensuring that you don't have things stacked on top of shelves is a major thing that you need to think about when setting up your classroom. This student back here is unattended, which is perfectly fine. Students do not have to have somebody sitting next to them all the time. However, there are two adults in this picture that cannot see that student. Students should be visible from every point in the classroom. There should be no barricades in the classroom where students cannot be seen. Although there is a teacher off to the right that may be able to see the student, however, there are two other adults that cannot see that student. Furniture should be set up in a way that encloses the areas. However, you should still be able to see every single student. When also setting up your classroom, the furniture can serve as major helpful tools. So for example, the tables can help block off some big empty spaces. So for example, this table here is blocking off that big empty space that would have been there if that table was not there. These shelves along the back wall, even though they are holding supplies, they're kind of enclosing that what might look like to be an art area. There's a table in the middle, and then the shelves around there are kind of blocking off that area to create one small little area or center. This table here is also blocking off this big empty space that would have been here if that table was not there as well. These benches, they may serve as multiple purposes for holding supplies, allowing students to sit, but they're also helping to block off where students would sit versus sitting on the carpet. It's helping define these different areas and allow for students to know which area is which. It allows them to know which expectation happens in each area. And it helps to allow the students to know which area you're referring to. So for example, if you said sit at your tables, the students know that the tables, of course, are the tables, but they know that the tables are not on the carpet. The carpet serves a major purpose. Even though it is a large open area, there are also poly spots that are on the carpet. This allows the students to know what to do in this large open space. They know the expectation of find your spot and sit down. It is not a free-for-all. Students know what to expect. Even though it is a large open space, it is still defined by those benches. Organization is a major thing that you need to consider for yourself and for your students. For yourself, having your materials organized is the biggest teacher mistake that people make. There are many teachers that I've seen that don't have organization. So when they go to find their materials, they can't find them because either it's in a stack of papers maybe they threw away, it's in a stack of papers on their desk that they can't find, it's in a pile that got sent home with the wrong student. Some teachers put it all in a binder and then they have to flip through this big, massive binder to find something from 4 years ago, and they can't find it. Having things labeled, such as having it labeled by month, is a great way to organize your resources. Nothing's worse than when you have to go find something and you can't. Then you go try and find your resources. You can't. You go on your computer. You can't remember where you found it. You can't remember where you downloaded it from. You can't remember if you made it, if somebody else made it, if somebody emailed it to you, and now it's lost. Organizing your materials allows you to be fluid with your teaching, allow you to know where things are, and it speeds up the process for a lot of things that we already have a time crunch for. Organization of your materials, especially things that you use daily, allows for you to be able to pull these out at hand, not have to stop your whole day to try and find sticky notes or whiteout or tape. Even though everything is not labeled, most of the things for this teacher are, and they are able to find them at ease and quickly. Some organizational ideas for students is to use numbers. This allows them to be as independent as possible, but it also allows the teacher to be able to reuse this year after year, rather than labeling their name. For a kindergarten classroom, even first grade, it works and serves as another purpose as having them find their number. It gives them some practice with number sense. So it also serves as a different purpose for being meaningful and intentional. It allows for students to be as independent as possible because they know number 1 is theirs, or number 7, number 13. They know which space is theirs. They know where to put their things, and they know exactly what to do. Another organizational tip is to have images posted about things that you do. So, for example, this teacher uses different methods of sitting. They can either sit like a mermaid, a mountain, or a pretzel. There is an image for some of the lower learners, students that may not be able to read, students who maybe still processing how to do these things, how to understand them. For these students, the image works perfectly. For some of the higher students who can read, they can read legs bent to one side, feet next to legs, hands and lap. They're able to read them. So it helps students practice the skills that they have as well. Students can use them to try and find the different sight words. They are meaningful and intentional because it helps all the different students. It is meaningful because it is something that is used daily, and it is intentional because the students can reference it and use it. The teacher uses it. It is something that is used often. Another organizational tip is to have things that you use and that students use out and available for them to find on their own. Having it labeled, even with pictures, allows the students to be able to find it. So for example, if you're doing something in math and students need the unifix cubes, or the counters, or tens, or hundreds, or ones, they know where to find them. They can do this independently, they can do it quickly, and they can do it by themselves. For art, you can label the tissue paper, foam letters, color scraps, straws, foam letters. This allows them to be able to find it independently and not rely on you for everything.